Yeah. For now, let's just dive it in. Maybe later we can do tutorials on specific game functions, but we'll just, explain things as we go along for now. So this is Europa Universalis 4, and it's very similar to 3, which was very similar to 2. And those aren't the only games in that series. There's lots of other ones, Hearts of Iron and Vicky 2 and Vicky 1 and uh, um, Crusader Kings and Crusaders Kings 2 and blah blah blah, but they're all basically run on the exact same engine, and they are just different takes on the same general principle, which is the let's reenact history just before modern warfare came about and ruined all of the glory. So so you can play from anywhere from 1444 down to 1792, and you get to pick which nation you're going to play, and you can actually switch nations and all that sort of stuff. Some general guidelines that the game gives you is if you want an easy time of it, play the Ottomans or Castile, which is kind of France, or France, which is also kind of France, or England, right? And if you want to have more of a challenge, play one of these nations. Austria will let you be constantly in land battles, which is what I love to do. Whereas Venice will let you take over the world trade, sort of, just get really rich and in around and try to control the papacy and stuff like that. And I don't have any idea what's the Bay of Napoli. Oh, I was accidentally mousing over Naples. Portugal is in this protected position where basically Castile is your ally and they protect you from everyone, so you get to spend all of your time focusing on colonizing the New World. And you'll see that after several hundred years, Spain and Portugal have colonized most of the New World area stuff. So they're good people to play if you want to focus on colonization. I've personally never really enjoyed colonization. And then the other options are Poland, which is if you want to get wiped out, then play Poland, right? Because Poland gets absorbed pretty early on. They merge with Lithuania into this giant Commonwealth thing, and then Russia kills them. Because Russia, Russia. Look how big Russia is. Isn't that ridiculous? I am Russia, and this is China, and this is some weird thing that no one's ever heard of. Not no one, obviously. That's a pretty big swath of land named Kazakh. So yeah, I've played the Ottomans in the past. They're really easy because they get this like prime real estate right on the edge of where everything's happening, but nobody from the Europe has enough time to focus on actually fighting them because Russia is so scary right next door and the Ottomans are themselves quite scary. It would take a big coalition to fight against the Ottomans, and that does happen from time to time in the form of crusades. The Ottomans control much of the territory that gets crusaded against, the Jerusalem or whatever, in Egypt and all that kind of stuff. And so those are your recommended choices for starting nations. You can also basically play anyone at any time period. You can play a faction that emerges and then gets immediately wiped out, or you can try to take over India, or you can try to take over Japan, or work on China, or all sorts of other things, or play one of the horde people. Who you play, one of the things that should influence your decision is technology. So if you click one of the Western powers, like England or Castile or France, you'll see that they have the technology level, if you mouse over it, of Western. And that means that they're going to advance through technologies really quickly, and they're going to get to all the colonization techs first, and they're going to get to all the naval techs first, and they're going to have more advanced soldiers, and they're just going to be better in like every way. Austria also falls into that Western tech. And then people like the Ottomans are going to have some of that, but not all of it. Not the colonization stuff, not so much. Their land troops are a little bit worse. Their navy is pretty good. And then you have the Eastern techs, the Russian techs, where they're very far behind on a lot of the colonization stuff and navy and army. They're far behind in every category, but they make up for it by having huge amounts of territory and therefore tons of money, tons of trade goods, tons of troops, tons of everything. So they have this huge, not very advanced army. ain't no one gonna mess with them once Russia is united by Muscovy that takes over Novgorod and Kazan and all that kind of stuff. Then over in the east, I've never played anyone in this area, so I can't talk too much to what their technology means. But I would guess that the hordes have this nomadic group technology. I would guess that that's not a very good technology. Probably starts off really strong with horse archers and then gets immediately dominated by everyone. And then the Chinese have their own special Chinese tech, and the Indians have their own special Indian tech, and the Africans have their own special African tech, and the New Worlders have their own New World tech. So you can't, for example, take the Incans and compete and become a world power. It's impossible because their tech path is super limited. It's super terrible. So you can take the Incas and try to make them not die out, try to form alliances with more powerful people, try maybe colonize a little bit, and just, go throughout history as Inca trying not to get wiped out. That's a legitimate way to play, but you can't take Inca and rule the world. So if your plan is world domination, you really should play one of the Western powers. It's really hard to take over the whole world with any of the other powers because the Western tech path is just so much better. That said, ruling the world sounds like a really good idea and sounds like a lot of fun, but it actually is really insanely tedious to try to rule the world because it's kind of a challenge to... It's just like lots of games in this genre, like Civilizations, all those different Civilization games and the Total War games and whatever. The challenge is early on when you have a somewhat balanced start and your neighbors are somewhat balanced with you in power. Once you've won a couple wars and expanded your territory, but your neighbors haven't, you get into the situation where every fight you pick is just you picking on some weaker power, and it's an easy win, but it takes time and it takes micromanagement and whatever. And then the bigger you grow, the more of that goes on. You can have 3 wars on 3 fronts and be moving people around and troops and taking over, but nobody can compete with you militarily. So it's all just like, how much tedium are you willing to put up with just to say that you took over the whole world? I'm going to fight a war with Kazan and take them over, but I have 8 billion troops. So I don't really find world domination to be a very fun goal. I like to pick sometimes when I pick people that have a good shot at that, and I get into number 1 in all the categories, and then you have the big war with all of the remaining major superpowers say, oh my goodness, he's gonna win, we should all pick on him at once, form a coalition against him and fight him. And then if you win that war, I'm just consider myself to have won, and I don't bother playing out the rest of it because that eventually you'll take over the world. Well, I'm not gonna actually go around and do that. So yeah, I find the early game to be really fun. I start over very often, and I don't play out the entirety of history. I imagine that if I took someone like Poland and my only goal was to not get wiped out by Russia, I might be able to have a lot of long-term fun doing that. But I usually do the Ottomans or Austria or England or Castile or one of the major powers, and then just majorly dominate Europe, and then say, well, that's good enough, I win. So that's probably going to be the plan again this time. I am going to play Austria. And Austria is the leader of the empire, the Austrian Empire, no, the Holy Roman Empire, when you start out in 1444, and their leader, as you can see over here, where is it, has a 5 diplomatic skill, which is quite high. Very good diplomatic skill. If you look at other nations, none of them have anywhere near a 5 in diplomatic skill, except for, I guess, whatever this is. Burgundy also has a 5 diplomatic skill. But that means your diplomatic skill means how many people you can have an alliance with. So I can have 5 alliances going at once, and then I can lead these huge coalitions against other people and just win wars really easily in the early term, which allows Austria to really expand throughout the Holy Roman Empire. And being the emperor of the Holy Roman Empire means that anybody who attacks any of these many little nations, then the whole empire goes and gets revenge and reclaims the territory that the person who got attacked lost. But when you reclaim that territory, you can claim it for Austria and for the empire, rather than reclaiming it for the people who lost it. So, for example, Berg is standing on its own. Let's look at diplomatic max. So Berg is just a place. It's tiny. It's Cleves is I guess the nation that owns the place called Berg, and it's gonna get killed by somebody. Somebody's gonna absorb that, probably Burgundy, into their nation. But because they're a member of the Holy Roman Empire, we click the Imperial Map mode, they're a member of the Empire. When that happens, we're going to declare a war of revenge, restore the honor of the Empire, and we're going to retake Berg from maybe Burgundy or whoever took it from us. And when we retake it, it becomes part of whoever claims it, basically. So it's no longer an independent nation, now it's a subset of Austria. And you got to be careful about dominating anybody who's really powerful in the Holy Roman Empire, because the Holy Roman Empire has like 5 electorate people, and if you dominate one of them, then all the other electorate people are like, well, we're not voting for you because you're trying to influence the vote by controlling one of the electors. But other than that, you can take over lots of the empire yourself, and eventually form Germany or Prussia or whatever you want to call it. This in between area right to the east of England, France, and Spain, and to the north of Italy and the west of what will eventually become Sweden and Russia. South of Denmark, man. South of Denmark. I love that Denmark exists. Anyway, so let's do that. We'll Austria it up. So first thing to note is that this is a turn-based game. Game starts off paused, obviously. And you need to kind of understand a huge percentage of the game before it makes any sense to unpause it. So that's kind of bad. You might want to play a couple games just on super fast forward and just lose hardcore and see what sort of things you're going to need to deal with and what sort of things cause you to lose and whatever. But first things first, this army has a little skull next to it. This means that it's losing men every turn, and if you click on it, this right here, the little skull underneath the number of troops, says 1.8% of the men in your army will die every month due to attrition. And why do we have attrition? It's because you see when we mouse over it, it says supply limit of this territory is 32, yet we have 38 units here, and so there's a maximum of 5% attrition in this location because there's plenty of food nearby, so we can't like lose our whole army all at once or anything. So the first thing we gotta do, split our army in half by clicking the S or the split in half button, and move half of them up there, then split that new army in half and move that half over there. So we got 10 people going up, 10 people going to the left, and 20 people staying put. 28 people staying put. See? So those are our little armies of awesomeness. So you can see they're still all red because they're still all in the same place right now, just waiting to move on like I told them to, but they don't move instantly. It actually takes them a long time to move from one province to another. If you click on a dude, or just mouse over a dude, I guess, it says he'll be there in November 22nd of the year 1444, so it's actually going to take them 11 days just to move from one province to the other. There's a tips thing where you can read about stuff, but I already know pretty much everything I need to about this game. And right here where it says no leader of your army, you can click that and appoint a leader if you're about to go into battle, and then de-appoint the leader if you're not about to go into battle. Leaders have statistics like fire, shock, and maneuver and siege. Maneuver helps you to move further in less time, so I might get there a day earlier if I put a fast leader in charge of this army. Whereas shock, if you mouse over it, it says shock basically makes your cavalry do more damage, and fire makes your infantry do more damage. That's a major simplification, but that's the general idea. And siege, of course, helps your siege units do a lot more damage. You can see we have 38 army size. Well, that means 38,000 troops. And then up here, our manpower we have a maximum of 50,000 660 troops in manpower, and this is manpower not including the troops that are already on the board. So each one of these armies has 1,000 troops in it, and that is 1,000 manpower, but your maximum manpower value is the amount of troops you can have that are not fielded. So if you have 0 army and you max out your manpower, you'll have a maximum of 50,000 troops. But if you max out your army, and let's talk about army maxes. If you click this little tiny production button and then click units, then over here it says your army force limit is you can have up to 51, which means 51,000 troops. And I only have 38,000 troops, so I have not yet reached the army force limit. So if I did have 51 troops, then I would have a total of, I guess, let's see, if my max manpower is 51 and I had 51, I would have a total of 110,000 troops to fight a battle with, to fight a war with. But 51,000 of them would be waiting to be reinforcements. So there you go. That's that general idea. And in the I'm starting at the very beginning of history, right, in 1444, so I've got only crappy troops available to me to recruit. You can also grab mercenaries, as with any game of this type. Mercenaries cost more. They don't cost more per month. They don't cost more to maintain. They just cost more to hire. If you click on them, then it says, hey, would you like to hire this Latin medieval infantry for 14.5 bucks. But if we click over here, it says, would you like to train Latin medieval infantry for 10 bucks? So it's 50% more expensive to hire them as mercenaries as it is to hire them as troops. But mercenaries don't come out of your manpower. They come out of the ground or whatever. They're maintained by someone else. There's only 7 mercenary troops available too, so you can't hire exclusively mercenaries. Then you got boats as Austria. I only have a single port, so boats are just a waste of money right now. If you look at my treasury, mouse over the treasury, it says we're getting 7.8 bucks from tax, 1.8 from production, 1.2 from trade, 3.6 from gold, and then we're paying 11.8 to maintain our army and 0.17 to maintain our fleet. So it costs me 0.17 every month to maintain this fleet, and this fleet is not going to do anything. It's never going to be big enough to do anything because our max fleet size, as you can see over here, is only 6. So even with 6 cogs, I could only move 6,000 troops anywhere, and I don't plan on attacking anything that's close by sea and far by land anyway, so we don't need boats. And by sacking boats, we're going to get a mission to rebuild our boats, which is weird. So let's look at missions. You have no missions selected. It gives you 3 missions. These missions are usually things that you would have done anyway, so it's always good to pick one and do it. When I sacked my boats, it says, hey, you should make boats. You should make 4 boats. And I just destroyed 4 boats, so it's like, you should rebuild those 4 boats. And if you do, we'll give you this reward, which is 5 Navy tradition and 5 prestige. But it would cost me a bunch of money, and I don't want the boats anyway, so we're just never going to do this mission. And that might be boxing out another mission that could have been more valuable, so maybe we shouldn't have blown up our boats just for that stupid reason. But on the other hand, I don't want to be paying for my boats all the time. The thing you should do basically with any nation as soon as you start the game, aside from making sure you're not suffering from attrition and sacking your boats if you don't like boats because you're me, is click this giant big button. There are basically only 3 buttons that you need to know about, right? There's this big button, this little button. Little button is production of buildings and units. Big button is the handling of all the internal things about your government or whatever. And then there's this ledger button. This ledger button just tells you statistics, and it is important in the ledger to go through every page eventually. But this isn't one of the things that you need to know before you can unpause your first turn, so we probably won't go too much over it right now, except to say that it's important to know that opening the ledger, clicking this country button, and then clicking previous until you get to the second to page 41. This is pretty important, knowing which casus belli, causes of war you have available to you, and that's kind of important because if you let them slip, then you're not going to get to go to war, and we love going to war. So when we first start the game, we have a reconquest casus belli against Burgundy, so we can immediately declare war on Burgundy, and Burgundy is huge, right? And so declaring war on a huge nation that is not the friend of any of our friends is just a really cool thing to do. So we'll probably punch Burgundy right in the titties. Also, you got to be careful in this game that huge nations tend to get more huge. So if we don't kill them while they're just normal sized huge, they might become superpower huge, and then we'd be very sad. So we'll probably punch Burgundy in the huge boobies, but first we need to make sure that they're not allied with anybody that we like. This is diplomacy. We probably won't go too much into that. So anyway, what I was saying is one of the first things you should do is click this big button and then click the economy number 3, or you can hit 3 on your keyboard to bring that up, and then reduce your army maintenance down to just barely above the minimum. And this goes from paying your armies half of maximum salary salary all the way up to paying them full salary. You can see it goes from 6 to 12. So you can't pay them less than half anyway. So you're never going to piss anyone off by lowering it all the way to the bottom. So don't worry about that. Just lower it on down. What this slider gives you is morale and reinforcement. So since we don't need reinforcement, since no one's dead yet, and we don't need morale because we're not going to fight a battle yet, and we already have full morale on all of our armies, we can just lower that right down. Morale is really important. Basically, in almost every fight, one side or the other is going to run away before everyone's dead. Nobody fights to the death, man. This is not Japan. People fight until usually about a third of them have died, and then they break and they run away and they go and hide, and then they get reinforced and they come back and whatever. So the morale is this green hit point bar kind of looking thing right next to your troops, and as you can see, it's full on all of my armies. But as I've just lowered my my army spending, since I'm going to pay them less all the time, their morale is going to slowly dwindle, or maybe it won't. Maybe it'll stay the same. I don't really know. So then these little tags up here give you ideas of things that the game thinks you should handle before unpausing, or it just thinks that you should be constantly aware of. One is you really want to pick a mission. Let's read about the missions we have. This says make a royal marriage with Burgundy and then raise their opinion of you to at least 100. We have two choices. We can fight them and try to take some of their territory, but they're kind of far away from us. They're not connected by land. So if we take territory from Burgundy, like we had sort of planned to do, we'll end up owning some land over here, and Austria's over here. So then how will we get our troops across? We'd have to maintain alliances with everyone in the middle, which shouldn't be too hard because this whole area is the Holy Roman Empire, and we are the emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. But it's still questionable whether Burgundy should really be our first conquest. This is the Holy Roman Empire button. It's only relevant if you're playing somebody in the Holy Roman Empire, and that is only the people in this little area. But because I'm the leader of the Holy Roman Empire, it's pretty important that I open this up and click on various things and find out what's going on. So Trier, Saxony, Palatinate, and Mainz and Cologne and Brandenburg and Bohemia are the people that decide who the next emperor is going to be. So I don't want to piss off any of them. But Burgundy isn't one of the electors, so even if he is in the empire, it's still okay to punch him in the nutsack. I don't even think he's in the empire. It says I have no casus belli, even though just a second ago it said that I had a reconquest casus belli against Burgundy. Maybe I misread it. It says reconquest against Burgundy. So it's and you click diplomacy and you click declare war, and it says you do not have a reconquest. Okay, well, I don't know why one of them says we do and the other one says we don't, but I guess we don't. So you don't want to just pick a fight. Oh, Burgundy has reconquest casus belli against England, and they have a truce with the Hansa. Anyway, so in our diplomacy section, another thing that we should probably do before declaring any wars would be to appoint our primary rival, and it's easy to appoint them. It's hard to de-appoint them. So these are people that you're going to just have pissed off at you for a very long time. So make sure it's somebody that you're going to fight multiple wars against, or else it's not worth doing. Where is it? Diplomacy would be the thing. So I guess what we can do is click on one of our own provinces. No, click on someone else's province, click diplomacy, and then click on our own province, and it'll bring us to our diplomacy with ourselves. Then when you're in diplomacy with yourself, you click this rival button to declare somebody your rival. And this is a list of the people that we have casus belli against. And we have revoke electorate casus belli against anyone who's an electorate, because we can fight a war just to tell them that they're no longer an electorate, and that's kind of a mean way to do things. And this one says that we have reconquest against Burgundy, but we don't. So weird. I keep coming back to this. Anyway, let's talk about trade, baby. Although you probably don't need to know about trade before you unpause it on your first turn. We can cover it in like 3 seconds, though. So here's the general idea. Your economy, lower the army budget, and then look at your trade and see if you're making some money. And if you're making some money, good. You should have 2 cities listed down here under when you mouse over your trade income. And if you don't have two cities listed down here, it's because one of your merchants is busy rerouting power from one place to another, and you probably want to switch him so that he's no longer doing that, and instead is gathering collect from trade, because you can either collect from trade or transfer trade power, and collecting from trade is almost always the better option unless you have tons of boats. And if you have tons of trading ships, then chances are you're going to look in more detail at what trade means, and I don't need to go over it. Advisors, let's talk about these three resource types, right? So you've got several resource types. There's money, just straight up cash. That's this right here, 189. You get more of that every month, and you lose some of it by maintaining your army and your fleets, and by taking out loans and having to repay them and stuff like that. Then there's manpower. This regenerates on its own based on just you get 1,000 per round no matter what, and then you get more for each province that you own, and then you get more if you're a feudal monarchy or a different government type that gets more army, and then you get even more if you have an army tradition of blah blah blah. Like, the army tradition is how much attention you're paying to your army instead of your navy. Like, it seems like whenever your army tradition goes up, your naval tradition goes down. So we have a tradition of fighting land battles here in Austria because we only have one freaking port. So we have a lot of army tradition that gives us more reinforcements. And then stability. This isn't really a resource. It goes down sometimes when you do stupid things. Like sometimes it just randomly goes down because of an event in history or whatever. Like if there was a historical rebellion, then they might lower your stability to try to imitate that in the game. And sometimes it goes down if you pick a fight with somebody that you probably shouldn't have picked a fight with, and now all of your citizens are up in arms, and they'll reduce your stability. It basically represents how likely people are to take to the streets and revolt whenever you do something. And you want to get it up to +3 because positive stability will give you a bonus to income, and it's hard to get income any other way. And negative stability will take away some of your income as well as causing some revolt risk. You can buy stability over here by clicking the big button and then clicking stability, the little crown with the flag next to it. And right here, you see you can boost your stability for the cost of 100 administrative power. And that's this thing right here. So we have 65 administrative power. We're gaining 5 every month. You gain 3 of each of these resources every month. And then plus some for your leader. So currently our leader gives us +2 administrative power every month. Because that's not very good. It could be as much as up to 7. So I could be getting 3 + 7 instead of 3 + 2 if my leader was awesomer. And then you get a little bit more for your advisors. Now advisors are crazy expensive. So let's look. Right now our entire budget, we make 8 from taxes, 2 from production, 1 from trade, and 3.6 from gold. Making money from gold mines. My gold mines are in Tyrol right here. See these? They have gold as their national tradey thing. That gives us 3.6 from them, which is a lot, right? Whereas this province has iron, and instead of 3.6 from them, we get like 1.1 from them in production, which is a lot less than gold gives you. So gold will give you an immediate huge amount of money, but you're minting gold coins out of the gold. You're making new money, so it just causes inflation, and in the long term inflation is very bad. So you got to be you can't be careful about it. You just got to be aware that it might seem like capturing the neighboring gold mine would be a huge boon to your economy, but in essence it's going to reduce the value of everything else. So yes, owning this gold mine is good, but owning this gold mine makes this iron producing place worse for me because of the inflation. You can see your inflation over here under economy, and it's going to go up and up and up because we own a gold mine. And then, dude, what else? Oh yeah, advisors. So we're earning 5 administrative power, 8 diplomatic power, and 4 military power if we have no advisors. If we hire an advisor, this is like a really good advisor, right? He's got a skill of 3. He's going to cost 9.0 per month. So imagine if we hired 3 advisors that were each level 3. We would be paying $27 a month just for those 3 advisors, and we would be gaining +3 to this every month, and +3 to this every month, and +3 to this every month. So it's a significant boost, like 50% more just from having those advisors. But then look at our budget. Our entire budget is like 13. So adding 27 to that is just insane. each advisor costs more than your entire army maintenance budget. So advisors are way too expensive in the early game, I would say. Once you're rich, then sure, come back and hire awesome advisors. But you also got to be kind of wary that advisors will tend to disappear after. So the later you get into the game, the worse the available advisors become because other people hire the good advisors. I think an advisor is born in a specific place, like this guy was born where the gold mines are in Tyrol. And so we get first dibs on him. If we want to hire him, we can. But then later on, he just puts himself on the global market and says, hey, does anyone want the best freaking diplomatic advisor in the game? And other people are like, yes, I think I would like the best freaking diplomatic advisor in the game. I'll take him. And then you can no longer hire him. Also, he's 43, so he's going to die at some point relatively soon. So you got to be careful in the early game. Right now, I'm making $8 a month, so I could hire one advisor, and I would only be losing a little bit of money every month, and I would be gaining administrative power every month, and I could use that administrative power to up my stability, which would up my overall amount of money I'm getting. That might be worth doing. But you got to be careful that my 8.0 budget is only 8.0 because I'm not paying my army. So if I raise this slider up, then suddenly I'm making only 2.2 per month. So you don't want to spend money that you might have to take away when you go to war. There is war taxes to alleviate the extra cost of paying your army a bunch when you go to war. But war taxes give you war exhaustion, which reduce your overall production and increase inflation and does lots of other nasty things. So it's kind of questionable. I usually just don't hire any advisors until I'm a little bit rich. So these three resources are each used to up your technology level. Let's look at technology levels, baby, because one of the main reasons we chose Austria rather than Hungary, which is right next door, is because Austria has a Western technology path, whereas Hungary right next door has an Eastern technology path, and Western technology is much better than Eastern technology. So technology right here. You can... Let's see. Where's the thing? Okay, so you see how I'm level 3 in administrative tech? I can go to level 4 in administrative tech when I have like 500 administrative points or some number. I think it's about 500, 600 it looks like. And then within these individual ideas, I can learn little subgroup ideas for a certain amount of these resources as well. So these resources are what you use to tech up, but these resources also have two additional uses depending on the resource. So military points can be used to hire generals, which make your armies fight more efficiently, and preserve your manpower, which means that you can fight wars more often for prestige, and prestige increases your income, increases your diplomatic relations with people, increases the ability of your merchants to trade well, and it increases lots of stuff. Prestige is quite good. So by hiring a general for a little bit of military power, you can fight more efficiently and therefore more often and get more prestige and get more money. Military power can also be used to assault a town to try to siege it in like 5 days instead of 5 months. So you can win wars more quickly. Military power can also be used to tech up. We already talked about that. And so those are the three uses of military power. Then diplomatic power is the same thing. You can use it to make diplomatic arrangements, demand things when you win fights, punch people in their nostrils, just do lots of diplomatic-y type things. I seem to have lost... What's going on? The game like minimized for some reason. Alright, so I increased, I kind of started over, increased the difficulty to hard AI and set it to Iron Man mode because I always play that way anyway, so why not set it to the mode. And now I gotta repeat that opening move of hitting S up, S sideways, so that we can split our army into 3 groups, and then repeat that opening move of going into the economy thing and lowering the army maintenance down to here. And then we get the opportunity to look in missions and see which mission did we lose because we had blown up our ships, and maybe decide not to blow up our ships, but rather to just pay them half. Let's give them half the budget of whatever, and then we'll just have some useless ships that we don't use. Now we have a new mission to choose from. Maybe Sundago's culture is different. Okay, so this is important. Another purpose of administrative power, or diplomatic power in this case, both of them, is to convert newly acquired provinces. We're going to accept this mission, and once we have 150 diplomatic power, we are going to convert the culture of this province that we own over. Right now it's Rhinelander culture, and we want it to be Austrian. See how that's in green, and this is not in green, so we want it to be in green. It's in yellow because it's an accepted culture, whereas if it were in red, that would mean that it's not an accepted culture, which would mean a huge percentage of the money that we should be getting from that province would just be wasted, because people don't like to give us money when we don't accept their culture. So we need 150 diplomatic points. We have 104, so in a little while we're gonna click E that button, and it's the button right here. So what you got to know about each province is if it's not a core, you got to click this button. If it's not of your religion, then you're going to click this one. And then if it's not of your culture, you're going to click this one. So for each province you own, just go into each of them and see if the button is lit up. And if it is, click the button, and all's well. If somebody is not a core province, you won't get almost any money at all from it. If it's not of your religion, you'll get, slightly some money, but not very much. And then if it's not of your culture, you'll take another even smaller hit to the income you get from them. So the next opening move, we're gonna go into some diplomacy, some diplomacy. So I think we will make ourselves a general, because we're gonna fight a war pretty soon, and we got a terrible general, and we can't get another one until we have 50 military power. So that's a big old shame. I think we're gonna hire an administrative ninja. Administrative technology cost or national tax. This guy just gives us money. Just mad cash all over the place. So we're currently getting 7.3 from taxes, and when we hire this guy, for lots and lots of money, he's going to make it so that we get 7.32 from taxes. 0.02, yay! And he costs 1.0 per month. Oh, he's only a +1 dude. I thought that he was a +3 dude. Oh well, good enough. And then over here we have some +2 advisors. They're all +2. So do we want diplomatic reputation, better relations over time, diplomatic technology cost, or global trade power? We're only getting $3 from trade, so 10% to that would be $0.3, which is more than nothing. He costs $4 a month, so 0.4 a month would be like 10% of that coming back to us through his special bonus. Whereas Diplotech cost, we're probably not going to get a Diplotech because we're going to be too busy conquering a new territory and upgrading it. By upgrading it, I mean making it be of our culture and of our religion and of our whatever. Diplomatic relations seem kind of important. Reputation. I'm not sure what the difference is between reputation and relations over time. Better relations over time seems like manly. I'm going to go for that. So then we're going to pick some people that we're not going to go to war with. I'd say Bohemia is a reasonable person not to go to war with, right? And then we have 2 diplomats. See this green number right here, 2? We're going to send out our diplomats. And the first one is going to propose a royal marriage with them. And the next one is going to propose a royal marriage with our immediate neighbors. Hey, you want to be royally married? No, they don't want to be royally married. So instead of that, we can pick someone else. Who else? Maybe Poland? Or Saxony? Yeah, I'd say Poland seems reasonable. We'll royally marry Poland. We're totally royally marrying you. Then we are going to unpause for a little bit.